It's the lull before the bowl. That is the week between the championship games and the Super Bowl. But we're blowing and going here on This Week in Pro Football. Ron Jaworski will join me in just a few minutes to offer some Super Bowl advice to Jalen Hurts. Sal Paolantonio then will chime in to talk Jerry Jones, Tom Brady, and Eagles Chiefs, and Sean Green on whether Patty Mahomes gets all the calls. We'll do all that for the next hour plus right here on This Week in Pro Football.
It's time for This Week in Pro Football, a deep dive into the key issues and marquee matchups in the National Football League. For the next 60 minutes, we invite you to sit back or lean in with host Pat Callahan as we preview the week's Eagles matchup, big games, breaking stories, and all news NFL. It's This Week in Pro Football, right now on JAKIB Media Sports.
All right. Hello, everybody. Pat Callahan joining you for a pre-Super Bowl edition of This Week in Pro Football here on JAKIB Sports. Very happy to be here for some extended weeks as your Philadelphia Eagles get ready to fly out to Arizona to meet the Chefs, who are making their regular annual deep postseason run in the American Football Conference. Very exciting. I think it's going to be a great game. It's certainly two pretty evenly matched teams. Look forward to talking about that with an all-star cast that I've lined up for you today, and I insist you stay for the whole show. Ron Jaworski is going to join me in just a few minutes. We'll talk through a variety of topics with Ron, including Tom Brady retiring. We'll have Sal Pal in a little bit later on, but we'll have Sal for a full run here to talk Eagles and Chiefs and some interesting comments by Jerry Jones today, and also get Sal's take on Brady's very simple but very classy retirement. And then Sean Green, his crazy website. I insist you all check it out, the Sports Gambling Podcast, and we'll look at some early props and picks with Sean. All right, so stay with us here. By the way, you can follow me on Twitter. Please do follow me on Twitter, I should say, at TWIPF Pat. You can follow the station at JAKIB Sports. All right, how about a little Lombardi here, Xander, as we get into this here on This Week in Pro Football. What in the hell is going on out there this week? Well, the NFC Championship game, Philadelphia wins it comfortably, I guess, over San Francisco. But I didn't think the Eagles looked great. I think offensively they didn't look too good. Now, that's one tough defense, but I think we all would admit, right, it was a little dicey there when it was 7-7. The Eagles went 3 straight 3-and-outs, and it did look a little challenging there for Philadelphia. But then Brock Purdy goes out, and I thought the game was over then. The fact that the fourth-string quarterback, Joe Johnson, went out, I don't think was really a big factor there in that game. I think it was the Eagles had won by that point. And good riddance to San Francisco. I think their behavior at the end of that game was terrible. I don't care how frustrated you are. Eagles win and go on to Arizona. The Chiefs win, and of course, it's you just can't get away from it, ladies and gentlemen. It was a great game, I thought, evenly matched game. I do feel bad though for those Cincinnati Bengals, who I think got hosed in the whole AFC playoff structure when they'd already beaten Kansas City, and I think we're on their way to beating Buffalo Monday night and ended up with the 3 seed anyway. They have to go to Kansas City. It's tough to keep winning games in Kansas City. So the Bengals unable to do it, but with a little bit of a push from the guys in the black and white shirts, as usual. It's just been a tough year for the Zebras, tough. But in that fourth quarter alone, if you think about it, the 5th down, imagine giving Pat Mahomes a 5th down. That's always a good idea, which I think was very unfortunate. But still, I mean, you just can't do that. You can't make that kind of mistake. I thought that the roughing call was proper. He clearly was way out of bounds when the guy shoved him, so you got to let that one go. But they missed on that same play. There were 2 offensive holding calls. 2 guys had headlocks on Cincinnati rushers, including Trey Hendrickson, who I thought had a shot at getting to Mahomes. No call was made there. And then on an earlier punt return in the fourth quarter, which set Kansas City up in great field position, there were 2 obvious blocks in the back that in any October, November, or even December game they're called. Not called. So it's just it's unfortunate, but that's the way it went as far as the Zebras at it again. And I have no doubt in the offseason, the NFL is going to do something loud and clear about the officiating, be it full time. They're just going to do something because they know that there's a lot of restlessness amongst not just the rank and file, but I think a lot of the teams in the league. So coaching carousel continues to gather steam here as more guys get signed up. D'Amico Ryans, the San Francisco defensive coordinator, signs a 6-year deal to coach the Houston Texans. Hey, look, I think Ryans will do fine as a head coach. He looks like a very, very solid guy, but that cupboard is bare in Houston. They're going to have a couple rough years. That team is noted for firing coaches very quickly. Hopefully they don't do it here. They're going to have to pay this guy a lot of money, but give Ryans a chance down there in Houston. Sean Payton goes from New Orleans to Denver. This is a questionable one, too. I'm not sure what Sean's thinking here. He wanted to get back into coaching. He made that obvious, but I think he could have landed in some better spots than Denver. I think that's a slightly aging team, too, without a lot of talent at the skill positions. They don't have a star running back. They're okay at wide receiver, but Jerry Jeudy gets hurt every 15 minutes. And their defense is going to age. It's starting to age a little bit. Guys like Bradley Chubb. So I think Peyton's in for a rough go there. And Denver now without another number 1 pick. And they also had to give up a number 2 pick. So the Broncos will have Sean Payton, but Payton won't have the kind of offensive firepower he had with Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, and Alvin Kamara in New Orleans. And Frank Reich goes to Carolina. I did not like this one either, to tell you the truth. I think Steve Wilkes did a very nice job with the Panthers. Got them within 1 game of actually winning the NFC South. I think he did a nice job picking up for Matt Rule and instilled some fight in that team. They fought every week. Now, are they multi-talented? No. I don't know if Wilkes, how much he could get out of them, but I think he deserved a shot. I think he certainly had passed that interim test. But lo and behold, Frank Reich, now the coach of the Carolina Panthers. And then, of course, Tom Brady. Tom Brady calls it quits. Just a quick social media note he put on there for about a minute. Very heartfelt and emotional, but I thought well done. Brady, I'm certain that Brady has now called it quits for good, but what a career. Xander, do you have that? Maybe you could throw that up since I have a minute here. Tommy Brady. What a career this guy had, and there's not a chance that anybody's going to catch any of these things. The 199th pick in the 2000 draft, 7-time Super Bowl champ, 5-time Super Bowl MVP. I mean, these are Ron Jaworski stats here. 3-time NFL MVP, 103,000 total pass yards, 737 total touchdowns, and 35 postseason wins, which is more than almost 3/4 of the teams in the NFL. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Tom Brady's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But a heck of a season, a heck of a career, I should say, for Tom Brady. Not a great season. When he goes out on a little bit of a down note, Tampa Bay did not even have a winning record. But what are you going to do? No one's going to remember that. What a career for Tom Brady. But it does blow a hole in the Buccaneers. There are some NFL teams now, especially in the NFC, that have some work to do. I think Green Bay, it's going to be interesting to see how that quarterback shuffle goes with Aaron Rodgers, whether they hold on to him or not. I'm sure there's some serious discussions going on in Green Bay. If we get a chance, I'd love to talk to Jaws about that, the quarterback movement that's, I think, going to go on this offseason. I think is going to be significant. But how about Xander? We get a break going here. When we come back, the great Ron Jaworski is going to join me, an Eagles great, an alum of Monday Night Football, and long time presence here in the Delaware Valley area. Some great golf courses if you play. So how about you stick around this week in pro football? Ron Jaworski coming up next.
First Bank is a true community bank with offices located throughout eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Being a First Bank customer comes with access to personal bankers, ones who know you and your business almost as well as you do. Joe Calabro is a regional president of First Bank and has been a leader and a lender in the southeastern Pennsylvania market for over 30 years. Call their Westchester office, 484-881-3800. First Bank is an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com.
Cantor Novak Beaver and Pike is a full-service CPA firm with offices in PA and New Jersey, offering first-rate accounting, audit, and tax services. They focus on helping clients achieve their business and financial goals, from startup operation to long-term financial planning. For more information, call Terry Cantor or Dan Pike at 215-550-2954 or on the web at cnbpcpas.com.
Are you looking for a family-friendly fitness center in the heart of Bucks County? Spring Mill Athletic Club has programs and activities to offer the whole family for every age and season. Group classes, personal training, dance academy, summer camp, and more can be found at this non-intimidating environment. Come tour Spring Mill Athletic Club today and get a free one-week trial membership. Visit us at springmillathletic.com for more information.
I want to be a game changer in construction. I want to be able to provide diversity in the workforce, and it starts at the top. I started Rodriguez Construction Group in 2013 with 2 employees, and we're 85 strong today. M&T has been a great partner since day one, providing us the access, the opportunity, the funding to be able to continue our growth. We can change the community in a positive way, one person at a time, one job at a time, and one family at a time. I think M&T Bank is very committed to the community, just like us.
And welcome back to This Week in Pro Football here on JAKIB Sports. Pat Callahan joining you in the lull before the ball here, before we get to Super Bowl 57, Philadelphia hosting. I guess they are the host team, the Kansas City Chiefs. And we can bring on right now an alumnus of both teams, a gentleman who was a big star here in Philadelphia and an icon here in the city, and also the purveyor, the owner of Honey Run Golf Club, Ramblewood, Downingtown, Blue Heron Pines. Really good golfer. That's Ron Jaworski. Ron, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Pat. Great to be with you, and nice of you to mention I played for both the Chiefs as well as the Eagles, so I'm going to be a winner next weekend either way.
That is true. That is true. And I guess you probably still stay in touch with guys like Carl Peterson, don't you? Like, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. You know, Carl Peterson, of course, Dick Vermeil was there. Herman Edwards was there.
Yeah.
You know, Andy Reid and I still probably text every 2 or 3 weeks. We stay in touch all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of good friends in that team. You know,
right.
Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, he spends a lot of time down the Jersey Shore. He's a Philadelphia guy.
Yeah.
You know, I stay close to a lot of those guys, like I do with a number of players and coaches and administrators around the NFL.
It's funny, Ron, the Eagles have played the Chiefs the fewest amount of times of any non-expansion team in the NFL. They only played them 9 times, and yet you just rattled off a half dozen guys who are pretty famous in the NFL that have played for both teams. You know?
Well, not only from a player's coach's perspective, you know, Mark Donovan, the president of the Chiefs, cut his teeth here in Philadelphia. You know, with Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Reed. There's all kinds of personal connections in this game.
Yeah. So, Ron, let me start you off here. I want you to look back for me just 1 week. A couple of things I wanted you to touch on relative to the Eagles' 31-7 win over San Francisco. That is Jalen Hurts, 15 of 25, 121 yards passing. Now, I know the Eagles did not need to light up the air with footballs in order to win that game. But do you have any concerns, including Hurts's that lingering shoulder injury at this point?
Yes, I do. And I made some of my observations doing the post-game show on NBC Sports that after the game. They didn't need him. And that's a great point you made, Pat. They didn't need him in this game. They're going to need him next Sunday. There's no question. The Chiefs are going to score some points. The Eagles offense must move the football. And there were some throws that caused me pause. So there were a few throws out in the flat that lost their energy in the flat and didn't get the receivers on time or force them to stop and slow down and catch the football. The backs on the backfield in particular. There's a deep throw to A.J. Brown. He won. A.J. Brown had separation. It should have been a ball that was lofted higher in the air, out in the box, and let A.J. He threw it way too flat. I could almost see him laboring to throw that ball. Yeah. He's been making that throw in his sleep all year long. So there were a couple things that caused me to worry a little bit in the game.
Yep, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if there's something has to be done on that shoulder after the season's over, Ron. But you're right about that. That concerned me too. But the Eagles ran the ball 44 times, only for 3.4 yards. But their running game still looks very strong. And now they go against a team not nearly as good as San Francisco against the run.
Yeah, that'll be the difference in this ball game. The Eagles' offensive line, which is the best in the National Football League. When you look at 3 All-Pros and a couple of alternates, no one's even close to the talent they have in that offensive line. It's one of those areas where I have to give Howie Roseman a lot of credit. Ever since he's been in position of making draft choices with the Eagles, he has built this team with offensive and defensive linemen. Those guys that play with their hand in the ground are most important to Howie Roseman. And quarterbacks love it, and running backs love it. So that's going to be the advantage this game. Now, sometimes throughout the season, I got a little, I'll say, not perturbed, maybe disturbed. They got away from the running game. And when you have the best running attack, sometimes you get enamored with that shiny little toy, the fast wide receivers, Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and A.J. Brown. We got these guys. Let's get them the ball in explosive plays. If you let this offensive line take over the game, Pat, we will win against Kansas City in the Super Bowl. The offensive line will be the difference.
You are exactly right. And you know what? You don't have to look back further than a week, too. I think the Bengals, as an example, against Kansas City, totally went away from they didn't run the ball the entire game, Ron. And yet, they're good. Joe Mixon's a good running back. He's a good player. Cincinnati didn't get there just by throwing the ball. And yet, you're right. Some teams, they have a tendency to just put the ball in the air and see what happens. I think the Rams do the same thing.
Well, I always use the B word. I call it balance. Yeah. Always think of the B word. You got to have balance on offense to keep defenses, really off schedule. Defenses want to play in a known situation. 2nd and long, 3rd and long. Oh, that's they can turn it loose. You make them have to respect the run every single play. And I'll go back as a name dropper here. When Vermeil left the Rams, Mike Martz took over the team. They should have won 2 Super Bowls in a row, the Rams. Mike Martz in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. The Patriots played nickel defense that entire game. Turn around and give the ball to Marshall Faulk. But Mike Martz wouldn't do it. And I know that there were players in that team that I know that told me after the game, Mike Martz said, we're going to win this damn game my way.
That's great.
You can't let your ego get in the way. Play to the strength of your football team.
I know.
They end up losing that game because of his obstinance.
You're right about that. And, as a diehard Rams fan, and I know you came to the Rams out of Youngstown State, a number 2 pick, and should have stayed there. The Eagles stole you for Charlie Young. But just 2 weeks prior to that Super Bowl you just mentioned, the Rams beat the Eagles by doing exactly what you just said. In the second half, Marshall Faulk won that game. But so you're right.
And Pat, the big explosive plays then come off the play action fakes. When you force those safeties and linebackers to get nosy, get up in that line of scrimmage, they want to make plays. We got to stop the run. We got to load the box. That gives you big spaces in the secondary. That's where the big plays come. So, and I know some teams have a different philosophy. We're going to throw it first. And, when you look at it, that's what the Dallas Cowboys did in the 90s. They were very effective with it. I'm not going to denigrate that. They ran the ball early. Threw the ball early, got the lead, then pounded it with Emmitt Smith. But I think the way the game has changed, it's so much different that teams, because it's easier to throw the football with all the rules, teams are keeping more players back. So if they're going to give you a light box, run against it.
I know. Now, of course, the Eagles are playing a team Sunday, Ron, that has this guy number 15, who I think just breaks all the molds. This guy is an extraordinary quarterback. I'd like you to give me your thoughts on him, and also between him and Andy Reid, the schemes that they can come up with because of what they got there. What do the Eagles have to be prepared for here? What should they be preparing for?
A lot. When you look at the evolution of Andy Reid, boy, he loves those toys, doesn't he? He just loves to have, not only 3 receivers in the field, but he'll rotate those 3. He'll end up playing 5, 6, even 7 wide receivers every game. Now, this season, because we've had a lot of injuries, he's had to play more wide receiver. And that could be a factor in this game as well. How healthy will the Chiefs' wide receiving core be? But Andy has become much more of a creative head coach and offense because he's still involved very much with the offense. And he runs the shovel pass in more ways than I could write down in about an hour. I mean, he just loves being creative. The guys, love playing for him. But let's get real here. You can only do that when you got a guy like Patrick Mahomes. I mean, the guy has just amazing arm talent. He's obviously playing with the high ankle sprain. He's a fierce competitor. The guys in that team love him. And I always go back to how Andy Reid brought him along. Remember his rookie year, Patrick Mahomes did not play. Alex Smith was the quarterback. To me, that's the way you bring a quarterback up. Let him play behind a veteran a year. Let him learn the system. So when he goes on that field as a starting quarterback, he is much more prepared, and the learning process is accelerated. And I think because of that, Andy is able to give him a lot more in the game plan and in the playbook every single year.
Yeah. I mean, he's an extraordinary talent, Mahomes, and he's got a rocket arm. But for God's sake, Ron, do you, like me, look at your TV set, whoever's playing the Chiefs, and at some point in the game, don't you find yourself saying, why don't you double cover number 87? I mean, sometimes isn't it extraordinary, Ron? I mean, many people could name 3 other Kansas City Chief receivers, but this guy catches 15 balls a game, and he's seemingly wide open on half of them.
Pat, breaking news here. They do double cover him.
Oh, God. Yeah.
He's that good. And he's really not, as we would say, a tight end. By the way, they don't like to be called tight ends because they don't get up as much as the wide receivers when it comes payday. Right. They like to be called wide receivers. And that's really what Kelsey. I mean, he's big, he's strong, got great hands, great route runner, speed out of the break. He's got everything you would want, and I think our guy Dallas Goedert's pretty solid as well. But he's no Jason. Kelsey's the first ballot. Jason Kelsey. I got the Kelseys mixed up right now, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, when you look at what he can do, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and you can double cover. He's still going to find a way to win.
That's what he does. All right, talking with Ron Jaworski here from NBC Sports Philadelphia. And by the way, Ron, that silent auction, I wanted to mention that, the Ditka and Jules silent auction. That's something you do every year, right?
Yeah, I do. Coach Ditka and I and Brian Urlacher this year have done a cigar party at the Super Bowl for the last 12 years, and we raise about $500,000 every time we run the event. And half the money goes to Gridiron Greats, which are former players in dire need. And half of it goes to the Jaws Youth Playbook, which is my foundation and helps at-risk kids in our community. So we'll have about 1,500 of my best friends will be at the cigar party on Thursday night. So it's always a fun night to kick off the Super Bowl.
All right. Well, how do can anybody reach in or can anybody bid on these items?
Oh yeah, go to Ditka Jaws Cigars. It'll come right up.
All right, there you go. Everybody, make sure you
make it. A lot of good stuff there to bid on. Even if you can't make it to the cigar party, which if you're in Arizona, you need to go to. It's the who's who of A-listers to start off the Super Bowl week on Thursday night. So I call in all my markers on that one, Pat.
All right, I wanted to ask you too now, Ron, about now switching to the Eagles quarterback. And he's a young guy, Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's not even 25 years old yet. And here he is in a Super Bowl. What advice would you, as a guy who also went down there for a Super Bowl and went through that whole week, and you were in New Orleans, which is not exactly a retirement community, what advice are you going to offer a guy like Jalen Hurts to keep himself focused and to try and shut out all the noise?
You're not going to win the game in one play or in one quarter. You have to let the game come to you. And as we know, in most situations, mistake-free football wins. You can't make mistakes early in the game to give the other team momentum. So kind of take a deep breath. Don't try to make every play. Sometimes, a punt is okay. You just have to approach the game that way because of, as you just said, the attention to this game is through the roof right now.
Right.
And the tension, the pressure, on the quarterback in this position, is remarkable. I mean, and we got two of the best young quarterbacks in the league right now, in Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. But, if I get a chance to see him, and I spoke to him throughout the season and training camp earlier this year, it's, hey, just be calm, be relaxed. And this kid there's a picture of him. There's a picture of him in a dictionary by the word calm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how cool and collected he is. I love that part about him. So I don't think his demeanor will change in the game. But sometimes, you just don't know what's in someone's belly or in their mind when the game was going on, especially a game of this magnitude, Pat.
That's right. That's right. I mean, and you just give an example to the people watching here. By the time you walked up to the line of scrimmage for that first snap against the Raiders, I mean, could you even think straight at that point, or were you able to get yourself properly channeled?
Yeah, I felt, we were all in, there's a lot is said after the game when you lose the game. Oh, you guys were tight. And my first pass was intercepted, and it was a mistake on my part.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I said. The play wasn't there to be made. Right. I was trying to throw to John Spagnuolo on a sail route. I had Luke Montgomery in the flat. I should have taken the flat. Right. I tried to make the big play, And sometimes just let the game come to you and manage the game. And by the way, that's where Jalen Hurts has really been great. Right. And I call him the field general. I thought last week in San Francisco, he, as you start out the show, he didn't have a great game, but he didn't make mistakes. Right. He managed the game. Right. He didn't have to throw it 50 times. He got him into good offensive plays with the running game. So he knew the way the game was going. So he said, hey, I can be calm here. I don't have to make plays. Just be the field general.
Now, Sal Pao's been saying that all year long on this show, Ron, that and again, last Sunday, Eagles, no turnovers. San Francisco, 3. So that's right. That goes a long way towards.
Pat, whenever I do my Eagles pre and post game show with NBC Sports, I talk about turnovers. Since I came in the league in 1973, that's a long time ago, Pat. This is the only stat that is held true. The turnover stat. Man. If you're +1 or better, you win 77% of the time. +1 or better, you win. What stat can be that telling? In other words, if you're -1 or worse, you lose 70%, 77% of the time. So you got to take care of the damn football.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, came into the league in 73 and you look that good. For God's sake, I tell you, there must be a portrait of you.
I appreciate that, Pat. Thank you.
God's sake. All right, well, listen, Ron, I really appreciate you taking all this time. It was great having you on. And please, everybody, get to that. Ditka Jaws, you said, right?
Ditka Jaws cigars. You can get
cigars. And I was out in Los Angeles last year, but I didn't get there till Friday. I'd have been smoking.
You missed a good time.
I know. I know.
We have every cigar manufacturer on the planet there. So they really support my event. They're all great. They donate so we can raise money for the kids.
All right. Well, that's great, Ron. I appreciate you taking this time very much. Wish you all the best with the golf courses and everything else you're doing. And we look forward to seeing you on NBC Sports Philly. All right?
You're the best, Pat. Great to be with you.
Thank you very much. The great Ron Jaworski joining me there. And we got another great guy coming up. So don't anybody touch that dial. The great Sal Paolantonio is going to be joining me. We're going to talk about, obviously, Super Bowl 57. Jerry Jones had some odd comments today. I want to get Sal's take on that. And, of course, the retirement of Tom Brady. Lots to talk to Sal about. We'll do it next on This Week in Pro Football.
I grew up in a home, and I wanted my kids to have that. The process of buying a home seemed so daunting, but Christine and M&T believed in me. Everyone took an interest and helped me through the process. You don't get this kind of service everywhere. I closed on the house and I didn't tell the kids. They were like, oh, you got the key? You closed on the home? They were so happy. M&T Bank made this dream come true for me and my girls.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at UGIES.com.
At Whistler Pearlstein LLP, we assemble the most effective team to handle all of your legal needs. There are players and pretenders, but our hustle and heart set us apart. In practice now for over 75 years, we're proud to be one of the most prominent full-service law firms in the Philadelphia region. We offer 17 different areas of practice, including business, corporate, and tax education law, real estate, zoning, and land development, municipal law, and litigation. Our top-rated attorneys and staff are laser-focused on client success. We strive to provide outstanding legal counsel with the highest level of care and consideration. Let us show you the Whistler way. Learn more at WhistlerPearlstein.com or email Michael J. O'Donohue at mod@whistpearl.com. WhistlerPearlstein.com or MOD@WhisPearl.com.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
It was late at night. I was browsing KennedyAuto.com when there was a knock at my door.
Hey, baby, what you doing?
Buying a car from John Kennedy Ford.
Online?
I let her in on the secret. KennedyAuto.com makes car buying easy. That got her attention.
Can I go for a ride?
Let me get my coat. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Welcome back this week in pro football. Pat Callahan here with you. Thanks again to Ron Jaworski for joining us. By the way, give me a follow on the Twitter at TWIPFPat. Follow the station at JAKIB Sports. Later on in the show, I still got Sean Green coming on, so please hang out with me. We'll talk to Sean about some early props, early picks, and some other interesting stuff relative to the Super Bowl. But for now, how about we bring this gentleman on here, which, of course, presented by Concrete Cutting. And this guy here, the host of the NFL Matchup Show, a busy, busy man this week and the next couple of weeks, and that's Sal Paolantonio. How you doing, Sal?
Pat, who in the world's idea was it to have me follow Ron Jaworski? Come on.
Hey, man, this is like a tag team. This is a great football tag team to have you reach through the ropes and slap hands with Ron, and in comes Sal Pal. This is a match I'm going to win.
Everything I ever learned about TV, I learned from Ron Jaworski.
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you, between the two of you guys, I know you're familiar with the portrait of Dorian Gray. The two of you guys must have a portrait of yourselves in an attic somewhere because you guys look way younger than you ought to. I know that much. But all right, Sal, let me get started here. First off, I just made some notes. Well, let me start with this. I'd ask this of Ron, I'll ask this of you. Last week, just give me your quick thoughts on the Eagles' win. Was there anything in that game that might have concerned you? I mentioned the Eagles' passing game and whether Jalen Hurts is truly healthy. What do you think?
I think he is truly healthy, and I think he is managing the game as it's presented to him by the offensive coaching staff, Pat.
Okay.
And he's doing a very good job of it. And you can just tell today in talking to Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown and other players in the locker room that this team is together. This team is a team. And I have covered the Eagles for 30 years, and I've seen teams that had cliques where there was a lot of tension. And this team really succumbs each individual ego. You know, it goes back to the non-controversy of Nick Sirianni relinquishing play calling duties to give it to Shane Steichen last year. In most situations, on most Eagles teams, in most cities in the NFL, it would have been a huge story. But here, because Sirianni has no ego, and he's very good at delegating, and he's very good at having all boats rise with his energy, Jalen Hurts is the same way. He really is. It's really funny. We interviewed Jalen Hurts today, and we asked him, record-setting year, 72% completion rate from the pocket. Number one in the NFL, Pat.
Xander, maybe you could bring that up, Xander.
72%, number one. Yeah. These numbers were put together by ESPN Stats and Information.
Right.
A young man by the name of Evan Kaplan, who does such a tremendous job.
Yep.
Look at those numbers, Pat.
Yep.
15 rushing touchdowns, most. So through the air,
on
the ground. Only quarterback to go 17-1 and win a Super Bowl, Joe Montana, 1984. We're talking about the greatest of the great.
That's right.
And he's at 16-1.
I know.
So we asked him today, Pat, this is so typical. We asked him today, can you remember your best play from 2022? And he said, season's not over yet.
Yeah. That's a great answer. That's a great answer by him. It does seem, I was talking with Jaws about this, the demeanor that this guy has. You probably then, Sal, and with all the crushing, the public relations push of next week and the push and pull on the players' time for tickets and things like that and appearances, it doesn't seem like it's going to phase this guy, does it?
No, but the NFL has set up a system and the teams follow suit where all of those things are taken care of before the plane leaves the ground on Sunday. Right. Tickets are distributed. Players' wives and family are all settled, what they're doing, what they're not doing. You get on the plane, you prepare for the game. You have a lot of media obligations. You do every single day. You got to talk to people like me all the time.
Right. That's right. Well, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And, but there are a lot of distractions. And he said he's going to tell the team another Jalen thing. Keep the main thing the main thing.
Right. And now, Sal, let me, if I could digress, walk across the aisle here. I just wanted, you've known Coach Reed for a long time. And it just strikes me, he just finished his 10th season as coach of the Chiefs, and he's won 125 games with that team. It's easy to do that math. By October of 2023, assuming he coaches again, he will become the Chiefs' all-time winningest coach for a team that's been around for 63 years. So my question to you is, how does he do it? If you could boil it down, what is it about his coaching style that enables him to be so successful?
I say first and foremost design, which he learned from Mike Holmgren in Green Bay. And Holmgren learned it from Bill Walsh. That's the DNA.
Not a bad tree there. Not a bad tree to learn design.
I would say number one, design. And to be able to improvise off of that design. And to have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, who's the ultimate improvisational artist with the football in his hands. We've never really seen anybody like it.
Yeah.
So you have those two combinations of things, design and improvisation off design. And what do you have? You have John Coltrane. You have you have Miles Davis. Yeah. You have composition.
Yeah.
And you have improvisation off of composition. Right. You have, Kind of Blue. You got the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And that's what you got.
Right.
And so I think that's it with Andy Reid.
So what is Philadelphia working on, do you believe, or what is the defense's primary focus going into next week then to be able to try and curb this guy and his ability to improvise and make plays seemingly out of nothing?
Pat, if I told you that, I'd have to kill you, Pat.
Yeah.
I talk to certain coaches and certain players about certain stuff, and they give me the same line. Listen, this defense has changed. And we mentioned this on the show last week. Greg Cosell did a piece on Matchup last week about how the defensive front has changed. More stunts, more twists, more games being played to get Hassan Reddick free to the quarterback. Those kinds of things, more press coverage behind it. So they are adapting, but this is a big adaptation. Patrick Mahomes, 3rd and 4th down, inside the 20, inside the 5. Hard to get them off the field, man. It really is. And they've got McKinnon and Pacheco and Travis Kelce. And it doesn't matter if they're hurt. Really doesn't. Patrick Mahomes had a bum wheel. We all saw it.
Yeah.
And, he's the ultimate improv guy.
I know.
And I think the Eagles are going to win this game, but I think there'll be plenty of opportunity for Patrick Mahomes to steal it from them. It's
even harder to get him off the field when you give him a 5th down. Which was just a bizarre 4th quarter. I mean, I'm sure you watched the game and you have to feel for the Bengals. And that, I mean, every call, and I am in no way am I a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. No. But it's just terrible how the calls lined up against Cincinnati in that 4th quarter last week, Sal.
It's terrible. And, Chris Jones got away with a really bad hands in the face and a body slam of Joe Burrow that wasn't called in that game, Pat.
Yeah.
And now they got Carl Cheffers. Cheffers this year is a referee through 4th most flags, 4th most in the NFL. And he has a history. Look it up. Look on ESPN.com and look at Carl Cheffers' history with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Checkered history. Checkered.
Oh, boy. Yep, that's interesting. I'm going to talk with Sean Green about that too, because he charts the referees all season long.
That's my man, Sean Green, does a good job.
That's right.
You know, a guy is a real guy if he's looking at the referees.
That's right.
That's a guy you can trust with the numbers.
All right. Sal, I wanted to ask you two other things.
I know a lot of guys downtown that look, first thing they ask me, who's reffing the game?
That's right. God. Well, that'll be an interesting dialogue in the offseason, what the NFL is going to do. If for nothing else, Sal, from a PR perspective, they have to appear to be doing something to address what were some bad moments for the officials throughout the whole season.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. I think the number one thing they have to address, Pat, is points scored per team, per game, 5-year low. Yeah. Somehow they got to figure that out.
Yep. All right, Sal, I want to ask you a couple other things here, if I might, talking with the great Sal Paolantonio here from the NFL Matchup Show on ESPN. All right, Tom Brady retires, Sal, a very succinct and very emotional 1-minute diatribe on social media. You've, I'm sure, spoken to Tom numerous times. Just give me your brief thoughts about that and what kind of hole this presents, not just for the Tampa Bay Bucs, but for the NFL as a whole.
Well, that's a lot, Pat, but I'll say this, and I have talked to him a lot. I covered all 10 of his Super Bowls for ESPN, and I was there at the birth of the dynasty in New England. So I know him well as a player. He has kept his heart locked up from the pick locks of biographers. And I think it will remain so until he comes out with his book. So there's a couple of things that I want to know that we don't know, Pat. One, just what was the rejection like from a lot of other teams? Did they all say, Pat, Tom, we're good. We're good. You know, even the Raiders, they looked at that film and said, doesn't look like you want to get hit, Tom. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if he had an opportunity and he rejected it, or he didn't have an opportunity and he made a decision. That's a key thing in this whole equation.
Yeah. There was a lot of talk about whether he might end up back in the Bay Area for at least one go with what's a powerful team in San Francisco that, I don't know. It looks like they're not sold on Trey Lance, but you bring up an interesting point there that I didn't think of. I was thinking Brady just autocratically said, I'm done, but maybe there was some indications there that they weren't going to line up to sign him.
Well, certainly they weren't. Or we got the best and the best of the best in Adam Schefter, certainly, and he's very close to Tom Brady's people. Certainly, if that was the case, we would have reported it. So, and there was all those rumors about Sean Payton and him getting together, but in Miami. But they put the squash on that. Yeah. So, I think he doesn't leave much of a hole. The team they went to the playoffs only because they're in a very, very weak division. Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. But the NFL, right? And look, these quarterbacks could not last forever. You just can't do it. It's a young man's game. So I think it's at some point there's got to be that great 2003 class or that early 2000s class of Roethlisberger, Eli, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady. At some point, you got to stop. You got to hand the torch to somebody. And I guess Brady's the last one to do it.
Well, you look at it, and here you have two African-American quarterbacks in the Super Bowl for the first time. But more, I think that's an important historic milestone, no question about it. But Jalen Hurts is really the first bona fide running quarterback who is a dual threat, who wins from the pocket. Yeah. Go back to those numbers again. Pat, he's completing 72% of his passes from the pocket. That was highest in the league. This is a dual threat quarterback who can win from the pocket. If Jalen Hurts, I'm going to make this statement right now, week before the Super Bowl on your show, Jalen Hurts stays healthy, the Eagles will win multiple Super Bowls with him at quarterback. Multiple.
Yeah. Well, not according, Sal, to Jerry Jones. I don't know if you saw these comments today on Pro Football.
I sent it to you, Pat.
I know.
I'm like,
and Jones, there's a quote, there's a lot of things that can happen for that year. In essence, we're seeing a couple of teams that have some real success putting it all out there and paying for it later in Los Angeles and Philadelphia. Where does he get the notion that the Eagles have sold out to win the Super Bowl this year, do you think?
I think it's very misguided, and I'm being very charitable about it because I cover the NFL and I like Jerry Jones.
Right.
But my gosh, he said the Eagles emptied the bucket. What bucket is empty?
Okay.
They have multiple. They
I agree.
have multiple first, second, and third round picks for the next 2-3 years.
That's correct.
That bucket, if that's the bucket he's talking about, that bucket's full. One.
Right.
And two, Jalen Hurts is on a rookie contract.
That's
right?
Just about to say that. Right.
You cash in when your quarterback has a rookie contract.
Exactly. Right.
Howie Roseman is the smartest NFL executive. Period. Paragraph. End of statement.
Yeah.
He's the first general manager in NFL history to be a number 1 seed in a conference with 2 different coaches and 2 different quarterbacks in a 5-year period.
Yeah.
I was on the sideline. You saw the picture on Instagram of me. Sal Pal, ESPN, by the way, is the Instagram.
There you go. I'm glazing. Good
I was
for
on
you.
the sideline with Roger Goodell. Here I go, bold-faced name dropping. And Howie Roseman, we were on the Niners sideline. Niners sideline pregame. Howie Roseman's talking to Roger Goodell on the Niners sideline. I go over to them, start talking to them. Howie Roseman leaves because he's got things to do. It's game day.
Right.
And I said, not for nothing, Roger, what were you guys talking about? I'm a reporter. I'm allowed to ask a question. Roger's out there. It's a public domain. Let's go. So he says, I was just talking to him about how remarkable it was that he pivoted after 2017.
Yeah.
The Doug Peterson leaves or gets fired, the whole Carson Wentz thing, and he says he rebuilds the team in short order, and here they are back in the AFC Championship game. And I said, bravo for you picking that up, Commissioner, because it's amazing.
Yeah, there's no question. If he was
in short, Pat, why doesn't we give Jerry Jones Roger Goodell's number and have them have a conversation about
That's true. Now, Dallas has solved its problems. Mike McCarthy's going to call the plays next year for the Cowboys. So I think everything's in good shape for Dallas.
Well, Pat, the last 2 times they were in a playoff game, the play calls by Kellen Moore were not so good. So maybe it's a good thing.
I don't know. It took him 10 minutes to land the same job with the Chargers, but I don't know what that means. But
it's the Chargers, Pat.
That does seem to be the default answer. That's true. All right. Would you believe, Sal, man, we blitzed through that time, and it was great having you on. Now, listen, I need you to carve time out for me next week. God forbid, you're probably going to work 220 hours next week, but I want you to promise me you're going to find 15 minutes for me.
Well, Jaws said it. The Super Bowl cigar party.
I know.
Ditka Jaws is Thursday night, a week from tonight.
That's right. Yeah,
well,
that's
Pat,
right.
I am going to carve out some time for you, 4:00 Mountain Time, to be on this show with you from Arizona, from Super Bowl 57, and you will get all of the insight and information that ESPN has to offer on This Week in Pro Football with Pat Callahan. But nothing can top the great Sean Green. So I'll get off the air and stop talking now.
All right, Sal. Listen, have a safe trip out there. Appreciate your time very much. Look forward to talking to you. All right. All right. The great Sal Paolantonio joining me there. Sal on his way, of course, for his, I don't know how many Super Bowls. I think he mentioned 30 Super Bowls Sal Pal has been to. And the guy's got a million stories he could tell. One of the most well-respected, maybe not the most well-respected NFL journalist in the country right now. So glad to have him on every week. All right, we got one other respected guy coming up here, and I want you to all stick around. That would be the great Sean Green is going to join me. We're going to talk about some early props and picks, and I do want to ask him about Patty Mahomes and about Carl Cheffers and what he thinks might happen next week with Cheffers throwing the flags. We'll do that next on This Week in Pro Football.
UGI Energy Services knows how dedicated you are to your teams, and that's how they feel about their customers. UGI Energy Services, a natural gas and electric provider servicing Philadelphia and the surrounding areas for decades. They're your local partner for energy planning and budgeting with sound purchasing advice and direct pricing. UGI Energy Services values customers and believes in building honest relationships. Let them help you save money on your energy bill and make enjoying the game that much sweeter. Get started with a free quote today at ugies.com.
For the team at Cordasco Financial Network, a part of Mercer Advisors, financial planning is about more than just managing your money. They guide you in making retirement, tax, insurance, and estate planning decisions by creating a plan based entirely on your individual needs. Plus, Cordasco Financial Network professionals work one-on-one with business owners in creating and managing company 401k plans, IRAs, and defined benefit plans. They can help you maximize plan efficiency, ensure full regulatory compliance, and optimize tax obligations. Call 855-558-3500 or click the link in the description below to learn more. Let their team help you secure your future. 855-558-3500. Cordasco Financial Network is a trade name owned by Mercer Global Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Andrew Garrett Incorporated, which is not affiliated with Cordasco Financial Network or Mercer Advisors. Client experiences vary. Successful outcomes not guaranteed.
Johnny Apple's restaurant and bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated, the concrete cutting specialists in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. These guys are celebrating their 28th anniversary as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. Any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition or interior excavating, call the specialists. Concrete Cutting Systems. They're the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. Call the guys today at 215-533-0652. The website is concretecuttingsystems.net. Let's go Eagles.
I want to be a game changer in construction. I want to be able to provide diversity in the workforce, and it starts at the top. I started Rodriguez Construction Group in 2013 with 2 employees, and we're 85 strong today. M&T has been a great partner since day one, providing us the access, the opportunity, the funding to be able to continue our growth. We can change the community in a positive way, one person at a time, one job at a time, and one family at a time. I think M&T Bank is very committed to the community, just like us.
Welcome back this week in pro football. Pat Callahan joining you here. Sean Green will be signing in just a minute. A little tail of the tape here on this game. I mentioned that these two teams have only played 9 times. They did have 5 common opponents this year. Arizona, Indianapolis, Jacksonville, Houston, and Tennessee. The Eagles were 5-0 against those teams. The Chiefs were 4-1, so that doesn't tell you anything at all. Eagles have made the playoffs 29 years in their existence since 1935. The Chiefs have made it 25 years, their existence since 1960. So that's kind of a push. Patrick Mahomes, 64-16 as a starter in the NFL. Think that's any good? 64-16, an 800 winning percentage. Jalen Hurts, 23-11, 680 winning percentage. Not bad either. So this is really, there's a lot shaping up here, and talking about shaping up. They don't shape up any better than this guy, the host of the Sports Gambling Podcast, and dressed in his usual Eagle green. That would be the great Sean Green. Sean, how you doing, pal?
Doing great. Yeah, I mean, just got to kind of kill this next week and just counting the days down until the Super Bowl.
Are you going? Of course you're going, right?
Yeah, we're going to be out doing live shows in Arizona. Going to be on Radio Row. Doing a live show with the crowd Thursday. So yeah, if you're out there, if you're an Eagles fan, hit me up. We got a bunch of fun shows, and yeah, free to come out. So yeah, it'll be great.
That's great. Do you get a press pass? I mean, do you wrangle anything like as a member of the press corps to get in somewhere, or do you just do all this on your own?
Yeah, so we're on Radio Row, and
how are you?
I think it also qualifies you to go to some of that media stuff. I don't know. We'll just show up to Arizona and try and figure it out.
That sounds like the Sean Green way. I want everybody to check this website out here, the Sports Gambling Podcast. I cannot believe some of the things I'm seeing on here. You have apparently a podcast on the Pro Bowl picks.
Oh, yeah.
That's unbelievable. I mean, are you telling me people are actually betting money on who makes and who doesn't make the Pro Bowl?
Well, the Pro Bowl events. Now I know they're just for fun, but a couple of these websites are listing some odds. So guys, they got to get some action, Pat. So,
man, I love this too. Now, everybody's got to check this out. Sports Gambling Podcast, the Super Bowl 57 bingo contest is up.
So instead, that's pretty fun too, because instead of like B7, it's player props, right? And it's free to enter. So then you kind of get your little bingo board.
Boy.
You hit it, you get a nice gift card.
What demented mind is coming up with all? Is this all coming from the twisted cortex of Sean Green? Man.
Well, that one was our buddy Christian at Play Action Pools. They do a bunch of fun contests. So I'll tip my hat to Christian.
Everybody check that out, please. Sports Gambling Podcast. Sean Green is your host. All right, listen, just look back a week. I want you to be honest with me as a big Eagle fan. Were you concerned when it was 7-7 and the Eagles had 3 straight 3-and-outs?
A little bit, yeah. But I also, definitely when they got that score and then you think about, oh, man, are we going to lose to Josh Johnson? This would be so embarrassing. I'll never hear the end of it. Yeah. But I do think like the defense was playing so well, even when the offense was out of rhythm a bit there. I still felt confident in the game overall. So, they're definitely a little nervous there when it was 7-7 and the offense was struggling.
And the reason why I asked that is because, I had some heavyweights on today, just like you. You're the third of 3, of course. Ron Jaworski,
3 wise men.
Ron Jaworski and Sal Paolantonio. They both were not terribly concerned about the Eagles' passing game last week, but 15 to 25, 120-some yards. I think Sal Paolantonio says no. I think Jalen Hurts is, in fact, still hurt. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to tell. Like that deep ball to A.J. Brown. He's hit that a bunch this season. Now, was it just they were a little out of sync? Was it the injury? But then he did, week before to start off the game against the Giants, he had that 40-yard deep shot to Devonta Smith that looked like a pretty good ball. So I don't know. Maybe it's just them slightly out of sync. Maybe it's there's probably still something going on with that shoulder. Now, maybe it doesn't bother him sometimes and he can play through it other times, but he seemed like a pretty willing runner, especially late when they were looking to ice the game. And that to me is the biggest thing, right? Because it doesn't matter if he runs, just so that they think he might run.
You're certainly right. You're
and keep him honest.
Right. Yeah. You're absolutely right about that. That read option has to have an element of him running the ball, or else it becomes Sam Bradford.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
We all remember how well that worked out.
Sammy Sleeves.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, let's talk about the other guy, Sean. And I know you're an Eagle fan, and I followed the Eagles. I've been following them since 1967, so I don't want anybody telling me I don't follow the Eagles. But this kid, Patty Mahomes, is something unbelievably special. But I want to ask you this. Do you think he gets like all the calls? And I'm not some conspiracy idiot, but it just seems to me that if you brush against this guy, that flag is coming down. Whereas many other teams, many other quarterbacks, and even in that same game, I thought there was a clear roughing against Joe Burrow, which wasn't called. Does Mahomes, because of his sheer presence, I guess, and the love he gets from the press, do you think he gets more calls than most?
Oh, yeah. I mean, in general, the NFL has gone out of their way. Hey, we want these quarterbacks out on the field. How do we protect them? We call it really tight because no one wants to see Josh Johnson and Brock Purdy in a conference championship game.
I agree.
The NFL knows where their bread's buttered, and it's TV ratings. And young people, just football fans in general, they want to see Patrick Mahomes out on the field. And I do think they go out of their way to protect him. Now, that call out of bounds on that late hit.
Yeah.
It's one of those bang bang plays, but I think it was the right call.
Yeah, it was legit. There was no doubt. And I felt so bad, like that. You could see a couple players on the Bengals sideline when he did it. They were like holding their head in their hand, just saying, because they knew they had just lost the game. I felt legitimately bad for that guy, that kid that did that. And but now tell me now that I brought up this subject. I know you're an expert on zebras. So Carl Jeffers is the man. 4th most flags of any crew in the NFL this year. What impact, if any, do you think this crew? Well, it's not his crew; it's just him. But what do you see any discernible impact there from Jeffers officiating the game?
Oh yeah, definitely. The under it's weird playing official tendencies, I think, for the total, because sometimes it depends what they call tight and what they call loose. Because if you call a bunch of pass interferences, that will help jack up the the total of the game. But if you call a bunch of offensive holding penalties, then that really makes a difference as far as like towards the under. So you kind of have to sort through what he does. I'll say this, Travis Kelce went out of his way to insult this ref after the last time they lost the Super Bowl. So if I'm Carl Cheffers, he may remember that. And the guy who does our ref reports, who've been following this all year for us, Moonoff, he just showed me a bunch of bet slips he already put in on the over penalties, over yards, Chiefs getting called for more penalties than the Eagles, over on Chiefs penalty yards. So I think there's something there. So we'll see.
Yeah.
It was a weird playoffs for the officials, because I felt like early on, wild card divisional round especially, they really let him play, and then the conference championship they really tightened things up and were throwing a bunch of flags. So
they missed a couple in the fourth quarter last week.
Yeah,
that's Kansas City.
Yeah,
and that's a couple they should have let fly that they didn't let fly, but that's it. But anyway, we have a great Super Bowl. Are there any? We're like 9 days away here, Sean, but are there any early props, I'm talking about in the game, player props or team props, that have attracted you right away?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the Kenny Gainwell stuff, Boston Scott. I mean, Kenny Gainwell is having a great playoff run.
Having a hell of a postseason. He really is.
Yeah, now maybe I do think there's some rumblings about Miles Sanders possibly dealing with a little bit of a knee thing, and that maybe they didn't want to go all out, but now it's the Super Bowl and maybe they will. Either way, I think Kenny Gainwell is going to get some carries. So his attempts are set at like 4.5. I like the over on that. I like the over on yards, and you can run on this Chiefs team. I think Reuben Frank always has a ton of great stats. He had the stat of the Chiefs have allowed 6 yards per carry rushed against them in the playoffs, highest of a team to make it to the Super Bowl. So any of the other running backs, Gainwell and Boston Scott, them to score touchdowns, them to even get the first touchdown, I think you're getting a good price right now.
Yeah, and I'd be more leery, quite frankly, Sean, of the passing, the over on the passing props on the Eagles side. I got to believe it when I see it. I think there's something going on there that I think the running game next week is absolutely crucial for Philadelphia. And it's, again, by the way, it's another reason why I should temper my sympathy for the Bengals, because they didn't run the ball at all last week against, as you mentioned, a team giving up 6 yards a carry.
Well, yeah, and as much as I thought maybe the Bengals got a couple bad calls, you had the ball, multiple times there towards the end of the game. You got to get the drive and get the points. Like, as much as you want to complain about the calls, Joe Burrow threw an interception. Joe Burrow took that last sack. Like, ultimately, you kind of gotta, you just got to get in the end zone there. As much as you want to, complain.
I'm so disappointed, Sean. I what a big Rams fan I am, and I have been forever. And I got to that Super Bowl last year, and I'll tell you a quick anecdote. My brother Michael went with me. He lives out in LA, but so on the Saturday afternoon, this is the Saturday before the game. I'm trying to, now you're in a city of Los Angeles. There's a couple of bars, right? So I figured, well, it's got to be. So we get a tip from somebody. I'm asking, where are the Ram fans gathered for the Super Bowl? I mean, you figure they got to be somewhere. And I want to go, and I'm going to, we could talk the history of Rams football, how great, that'll be a great afternoon. We walked into a place, we were the only two people in the place. I mean, there was just nothing. Now this coming week, Arizona, what a great place that's going to be if you're an Eagle fan, right?
Oh, yeah. There's going to be a ton of Eagles fans. I mean, there's already, anytime you're out in Arizona or even out here in LA, there's always, look at me. There's always a ton of East Coast transplants.
There's always a ton of somebody else's fan out in Los Angeles.
LA, Arizona, too, because a lot of people move there from other places. And actually, a fun little stat, the Eagles and the Chiefs both have one win in the State Farm Stadium, as did the Cardinals. The Cardinals had one win at State Farm. So whoever wins the Super Bowl is going to have the most wins at State Farm this season.
Oh, my God. Yes, that usually unbelievable Cardinal home field advantage just didn't come through this year, Sean. You're right about that. You're right. All those West, but the exception possibly is San Francisco. I did feel bad for those 49er fans who thought they were going to take over Philadelphia. They were absolutely crazy thinking they were going to do that. God.
I saw a great video, and it was just Eagles fan filming a sad 49ers fan with the caption, "This is, you spend $2,000 to watch Josh Johnson."
That is true. It's going to be a fascinating offseason, Sean, as to who goes where. There's I count 9 teams that are really in need of a quarterback. Now, that is more than a quarter of the NFL, but I think there are that many that need to do something at the quarterback position. It's going to be, and with Tom Brady retiring, it's going to be interesting to see who goes where.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a really fun offseason carousel again. Of course, you got Aaron Rodgers, will I, won't I, Derek Carr on the move.
Is Lamar going to sign back with Baltimore? I don't know.
Yeah, and then there's always 1 or 2 surprise ones as well. So, it's going to be a great offseason.
All right, well, listen, I want you to have a great time next week, Sean, but I'd love it if you could carve out, I don't know where you're going to be. I know you're going to have all your equipment with you.
Yeah.
Maybe you could carve out 10 minutes for your old buddy here.
We'll figure it out.
I'll be sitting in my nursing home hallway, and maybe you could log on here and help me out just a little bit. All right.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you a report from Arizona for sure.
All right, Sean. Thanks a lot. The great Sean Green. Check out the Sports Gambling Podcast. We'll just wrap it up real quick here, Xander. Talking about that quarterback. I mentioned 9 teams. Jets, they're in their Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes. Jets have a good young team. They have to decide if they're going to roll the dice here and go all in. The Raiders need to replace Derek Carr. Carr himself could go to the Colts or the Dolphins, I think. Colts, all they do is bring in older quarterbacks for a year, and then they get pummeled, and then they're out. But Miami has to do some thinking here. Miami has to decide, God forbid, that Tua, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. He just got out of the concussion protocol 4 weeks after that latest concussion in the postseason. So Miami has a big decision to make there. Houston perennially needs a quarterback. Davis Mills is not going to get that job done. But how about Tampa Bay, New Orleans, even Arizona? Kyler Murray's going to be out most of next year. So there's a lot of teams looking for quarterbacks. Some you'll get in the draft, but it's going to be interesting to see Lamar Jackson, Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, where they end up. There's going to be quite a market for all of them. All right, that'll do it for this episode of This Week in Pro Football. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much to Ron Jaworski, Sal Paolantonio, Sean Green for joining me. Next week, we'll be here we'll be 72 hours out from the actual Super Bowl. The Philadelphia Eagles, hopefully, set to win their second Super Bowl and second in the last 5 years. Be great to see. Look forward to talking to them and to you. And we'll do that next week on This Week in Pro Football.